Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, teslators, peasants, vassals. I'm Useful Idiot. Today I want to talk about Syria and an update on Syria. And I pretty much stand by my observations from previous videos that there is no plan B for the United States. Assad regime has to be removed. There just is no other plan. And so what we're seeing now is a convergence of events that are leading closer and closer to this war. And the United States has already announced that the red lines have been crossed and that they're going to supply weapons to the Syrian opposition directly. And that is occurring. But now there's talk of a stepped-up United States intervention, which I still feel is inevitable. So what we have now is General Dempsey, in a letter to Carl Levin, lines out a plan of attack on Syria. And it pretty much goes along with what I said in my last video about Syria, that we are going to war in Syria, the United States is going to war in Syria, and that the results we can see and the techniques and tactics we can expect to see are pretty obvious, and they're spelled out just as I suspected by General Dempsey. So we're going to be training opposition militias in Syria. There will be missile strikes against Syrian targets. They will destroy Syria's air force or set up a no-fly zone involving allies in the region. And then there could possibly be also borderline buffer zones along Turkey and Jordan. And then special forces raids on chemical weapons. And cost is estimated at about $1 billion a month, involving hundreds of aircraft, ships, submarines, and other enablers. So, as I also said before, it looks like something along the lines of the blueprint for Libya, except that it looks like there will be at least some boots on the ground. Well, of course, there was in Libya as well. But I think it's very pointed that General Dempsey pointed out that, quote, once we take action, we should be prepared for what comes next. Deeper involvement is hard to avoid, unquote. And certainly that is extremely true. And that's what will happen in Syria. You know, hornet's nest of should the U.S. Actually get involved there, which seems inevitable, in which case we'll be mixing it up with Kurds and Al-Qaeda and Iraqis and Iranians and Syrian government troops and Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah and everyone else that's in there. So why not? So on top of that, coinciding with this story about U.S. Contingency plans for intervention in Syria, well, we now have Assad making announcements in Syria that he is winning the civil war. And so we see a convergence here. The fact that the United States is airing out their contingency plan to invade and intervene in Syria with direct military action. At the same time that we find Assad announcing further victories in the field and that he is winning the civil war. So no coincidence there that these two events should occur, because the United States, as I say, does not have a plan B. And therefore, Assad's recent victories in the field and turning the tide of the war against the opposition has made United States intervention seemingly inevitable. And so that is what I will stand by. Then there's another story that came out recently, too, about Syria, and that involved the idea that the United States is paying cash to Syrian deserters in order to join the opposition, and that Al-Qaeda members are also getting this salary. And I don't think anybody should be surprised by this. It's an interesting facet that confirms all the things we already know about Syria, but it's not exactly like it's news when we have places like Iraq and Afghanistan where huge bags of money and huge pallets of money are being shipped around the country all the time, and everybody's getting in on it. Or the idea that we paid off all the Northern Alliance in Afghanistan, we paid them cash, and took over from the Iranians and paying the Northern Alliance and the opposition in Afghanistan cash in order to fight for U.S. interests. And we shouldn't be surprised by that either, that it happened in Afghanistan, that happened in Iraq, and now it happens in Syria. what better way to get someone to fight or take a position if you can supply them a means for a living. $150 goes a long way in a place like Syria. So no surprise there. But as the stories point out, the irony that we're paying cash to Al-Qaeda foot soldiers in Syria just adds to the irony that we're already aware of. So anyway, there's the latest developments in Syria as the United States moves closer to intervention. And I would suspect with further victories by the Assad regime, there's going to be a little lag time for the United States to find out if arming the rebels and some of these stepped-up efforts help the offensive against the Assad government in Syria. Because if it doesn't, then we will see U.S. intervention very, very soon. So we're in August now, so I wouldn't be surprised if the United States waits a few weeks or a few months to find out if the arming is working, and if not, the United States is going in. And I would guess that sooner or later the United States is going in because the opposition by itself is not going to win this war. And as I said over and over, there is no plan B. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too. And remember, to be sure of hitting the target, shoot first and call whatever you hit the target.